Hello, everybody. Welcome back to Can't Be Bothered.
Welcome back, everyone.
Yay. I am, as always, excited about today's topic. We are going to be, as you can tell by the title, talking about housewives or reality stars' side hustles. This is something that was sort of inspired by a comment that Angie K made at, I think it was either the first, second episode of the Salt Lake City reunions, but rumors about her have sort of impacted her name as being a pillar in the Salt Lake City community.
Mm-hmm. Can't have
Which I thought
that.
was so funny. Have you seen those memes of like her face on a pillar and she's like
No.
it's so
Oh my God.
and it really made me think about yeah, like we see a lot of shit on the show and hear a lot of rumors and who knows how that actually impacts people offline. So figured this would be a cool conversation, but before we get into it, I'm curious to hear about your background.
Oh my goodness. Yeah, we've just got a little trio going here with
Yeah.
our gray color palette. So behind me is the QVC television network
Mhm.
where Lisa Rinna's line is featured behind me. We've got some cardigans, we've got some joggers. If anyone recalls, I think she was um, doing some of her show while being filmed on
Mm,
Real Housewives of Beverly Hills. So we
yeah.
got to see a little bit of a behind the scenes sneak peek. So I thought I would do a little shout out to Rinna today.
Oh my gosh, yeah, I love that. I feel like those were really iconic times of Beverly Hills, and I feel like that's something that's not as common anymore for branding, just with the rise of like social media. But man, that show was an era for
I
a while.
know. I think she took a little bit of shit for doing it, and I get
Really?
it because, yeah, I think just because it's a little bit different than some of the other brands that we're going to hear about
Totally.
today.
Yeah.
But hey, it made her really good money, and like she freaking
Yeah.
loved it. She got out on that stage and she strutted her stuff. She was having the best time.
Yeah.
So go off, Rena.
I feel like that is such a demographic of Real Housewives fans that we're not even tapped into because like we see everything on social media and we think of like the branding that we see for a lot of housewives in particular is very social media driven, but she tapped into like a small demographic that like yeah, would make her some good money.
1000%.
Good
Yeah.
reminder.
What about you
I
today?
wish I could say that these are my background dancers, but they are Erica Jane's. As we know, I think she's wrapping up her Las Vegas residency,
Mhm.
on Betted on Blonde or whatever it is. I really wish I could have gone and seen it. I honestly would have.
Uh-huh.
But this is her in Chicago, and I know that Ariana Madix is doing Chicago right now. She's Roxy. And it's so cool. And I love that there's just been like multiple Bravo people that have played that role. So just as a reminder that Erica Jane has also been Roxy at one point.
Aw, we
Yeah.
love it. Yeah, that would have been really cool to see because I don't know
Mhm.
about you, I love live theater.
Oh, me too.
And can you imagine seeing any of our Bravo Lebs in live theater? Like that
Oh,
would be such a cool experience.
yeah, that would be really cool. And I think too, like you could see some like obviously they were casted for a reason based off of the shows too, right? So
Yeah.
I'm sure that they've given them some creativity with showing their personality through the character. So I think that'd be really
Yeah.
fun to see Erica do that. And I also think Ariana is a perfect fit too.
Yeah. Totally agree.
Yeah, so I wanted to start off by sort of talking about one time, like the first time that I sort of started thinking about this topic, and it was actually a couple years ago, or not a couple years ago. Rena left Beverly Hills last year around this time, maybe.
Was it? Yeah, I guess it has just been 1 year.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. And she was doing an interview, I don't remember where, and they had asked her, Harry Hamlin and his
Mm.
participation in the show, and if how she's feeling about leaving the show, and how he's feeling about her leaving the show, and I guess also having conversation around like when she got started and the reason why she got started on Beverly Hills. And at first, Harry Hamlin wasn't very supportive of it and totally shot the idea down, and she was like, "Okay,
Yeah.
fine, I'm not gonna do it." And then he ended up sort of coming back to her and saying, like, you know what, this would actually be a really great business move based off of what we've seen Bethany Frankel do on Real Housewives of New York. Because at that time, when Lisa Rinna started, that was when Bethany Frankel was like really at her peak, I think, on New York.
Yeah,
Which it's funny to think about like where Housewives was at the time in
I
different seasons.
know.
Yeah. So it made me sort of think about if people join the show for that reason also. I didn't even think about that before because in my mind being a housewife is like kind of like that's it. That's just perfect. That's such a
Yeah,
great opportunity. But it really is a way to market their brands and show their lifestyle and have the product placement kind of like there.
I know. It's so true.
Yeah.
I feel like, I mean, we know for a lot of housewives, they've talked about the fact that, at least in the traditional sense, their husbands are making the money or they've inherited wealth or whatever,
Yeah.
and they're kind of bored and looking for something for them to do, looking for
Yeah.
something that they can take ownership of.
Yep.
And obviously, you're taking that a step much further if you have your own brand, your own business.
Yeah.
Um, but I would think about like
Totally.
the risk that could come. I don't know. Personally, I would feel super cautious. Like, do I really want to share this?
Mhm.
What are the risks and the ramifications that could come if this doesn't go well? But at the same time, if it does go well, I can see that would be, a huge benefit to your brand, but oh man, it just feels so risky.
I know, and I think too it's also very specific to the product that I think you're showing because I'm thinking of Karen's La Dame perfume right
Yeah.
now because in Potomac what we saw in the most recent or not the most recent episode but a recent one was her connection to her mom and sort of honoring her mom in that way. So people that support Karen as like just a person on the show, it's kind of a low risk situation I think with that. But
Yeah.
I just think of how Bethany's brand has really aged quite poorly.
Yeah.
And she is associated with a brand that is like very skinny centered and like very, very much in the depths of diet culture. And like, I
Yeah.
wonder at the time, as great of an opportunity as is just to get the brand name out there, baseline,
Yeah.
it's not, yeah, you're very subjected to like having things be on the show long term. And if they don't age well, you're still going to be associated with it.
I
You
know.
know?
So true, eh?
Ugh,
Yeah.
icky. So some examples of some brands that immediately come to mind for me, um, I mean, I'm thinking of even Beauty Lab, for example, Heather Gay's
Yeah.
business. Like that has been sort of now a tourist attraction for
Yeah.
people. People just want to go to the parking lot and people just want to be at the business, whether they actually get procedures or not. They just want to be there.
Yeah.
Do you think that that's a positive or like what's your take on that?
I don't know. I guess, if I were in that circle and was on such a big platform,
Mhm.
I would feel like any kind of buzz or hype about my business is good because it's
Yeah.
getting people looking into it and talking about it and thinking about it and getting it more views or more likes and, just increasing awareness. I
Yeah.
think like one of the tougher things for Beauty Lab was that Jen Shaw was arrested in the parking lot
Yeah.
there. And so, maybe that the parking lot almost like overshadowed her actual business.
True. That's such a good point. And I feel like,
Um,
yeah, sorry.
yeah, no, that's it.
I feel like too, there is a difference between like brands being online versus in person. And I'm just sort of thinking about Schwartz and Sandy's right now too, and
Yeah,
Tom Tom and like all something about her, like all of
yeah,
those businesses, like them being physical places. I think there is way more risk with that.
yeah,
Because we saw in the most recent episode of Vanderpump Rules that came back, they were sort of talking about like how their physical business was like, people were I guess throwing shit on there, vandalizing it a bit, staff were
vandalizing.
quitting. Like there's a bigger ripple effect, I think, when it comes to a physical business. And you're right, I think it's more about like just going there and taking pictures of it rather than actually like engaging with the brand and like supporting it and going in and buying something.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I think that definitely can be true. And like Schwartz and Sandy's was a huge example. I mean, just seeing the impact that your kind of reputation
Yeah.
has, just how much hatred and anger people felt towards Sandoval and just that impact on his business, which obviously involved more than just him.
Yep.
So, definitely unfortunate that like his staff, his servers would have been impacted by that as well. But
Yeah.
I do see that more as being like on Sandoval.
Oh, totally. Absolutely.
But you're right, like it is always a huge risk.
Mhm.
Yeah. I think, on something about her too, like they went about it so smart, in my
Mhm.
opinion. Just
Mhm.
like, I know that they wanted to have the shop open by now, but they're not just like sitting around waiting, twiddling their thumbs. They've done catering, they've done a lot of really good marketing and social media for all of their little pop-ups,
Yeah.
little events like that. The merch,
Mhm.
like, damn, they did
I know.
well.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah,
they're
I think
smart.
that they've really blended like the physical store and like the online presence in a really great way. Because I think that also connects people that live in LA or go to West Hollywood. Like they can go to those places and support them physically, but then people
Yeah.
who are here in Canada who can't
Yeah.
necessarily just go down the street, we can still support them. And so I think that that's a fabulous way that they've done that. I
Yeah.
know a friend of ours loves to go to California, and so she's been going to Tom Tom every year for her birthday, and I think it's such a fun thing. Like as
Yeah.
Bravo fans can actually go in person to like drink the drinks that they've been talking about and like eat the food that they've been talking about. But I also think that that is part of Vanderpump's like both the show and also Lisa specifically like
Hmm.
making their brand. You don't have to go there to support it. Like we made goat cheese balls at home and tried to make pumptinis. Like there's ways that we can still feel like we're part of it. So it's a really smart idea. I think like that whole show did a really great
Yeah.
job at making their brand positive, regardless of what drama happens, because it's not all in one
Yeah.
person, right? Like
Yeah.
Lala can say something sideways, Sandoval can fuck up, but like the brands are still solid despite that, because that's kind of like they came into it being messy. I think
Yeah.
what's tricky about Housewives is like they come on a little bit like polished. And
Hmm.
then when things get shaky, their brands are really, really, really at risk because it's just them. Like they're the face of it, you
Yeah.
know?
That's such a good point. It feels like there's a kind of different expectation for these upstanding women to
Yeah.
be like, of a certain um I don't know, having certain standards
Yeah.
and to be within a certain box. Whereas with Vanderpump Rules, you expect all these like young, drunk, messy kids to just like fuck up
Exactly.
all the time, even though
Yeah.
they're not kids. Right? But yeah, there is totally a different mentality. That's such a good point.
And I think too, like when your business is your brand, like I'm even thinking about Erica Jane and her sort of vibe that she's selling to people and even Sheena Shea from Vanderpump Rules, like her sort of online presence off of Vanderpump is kind of tied to Vanderpump, but she has her own podcast, she has her own YouTube channel, like her own brand deals, like she kind of has her own thing going on. That's it's interesting to see like how the shows impact that because like you're saying Beverly Hills especially I think like the whole allure of it is like this world that we don't have insight to like we aren't connected to like affluent people in
Hmm.
West Hollywood um but they are so it's tricky when Erica gets caught up in these like legal battles like
Yeah.
her whole even though it's not necessarily a product we're buying into, she wants us to like feel the fantasy of Erica Jane. So that way when she
Yeah.
does a bunch of different things, we're following along and we're buying tickets, we're buying merch, like her
Yeah.
whole character. So I can only imagine how difficult that must have been for her team to like navigate, you
Oh my
know?
gosh. Yeah, that's true. I kind of forgot like how things started for her, and she
Mhm.
was always seen as this very like mysterious character who there was this other side to her that we didn't really get to know or see right away.
Yeah.
And I do feel like it was because she came on already established as Erica Jane. She had this character, she was trying to get her career going, and that has kind of softened a
Yeah.
lot, or like that curtain maybe has lifted.
Mhm.
Um, and now, yeah, there's much less of a line between those two kind of images.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's such a good point. And I think too, like going back to what you were saying around like women's sort of financial independence by being on the show, immediately when you were saying that, Alexis from Orange County came to mind because she really wanted to be a news anchor and she really wanted
Yeah.
to have her independence. And her whole thing in her confessionals is like, I want to make money outside of my husband. He was like very much not supportive of that, unfortunately. And Robin's business, I think it's been interesting to see on Potomac how their financial struggles that she's been very honest and open about.
Yeah.
seem to have, you know, it's great to see her in a position of like she's actually supporting their family, both with by being on the show, investing in this new business, like this facial business, whatever.
Yeah.
And also her baseball caps with the silk lining, which I
Yeah.
actually really want to buy because I think that that'd be
Yeah.
great. It's such a struggle when you have curly hair to find hats that
Aw.
work. So I feel like that is one business that like I would actually go and buy that
It was a
product.
smart business.
It's
Yeah.
so smart and like you don't have to be a fan of the show to want it because it's just such a
Yeah.
great product by itself. Robin, I'll give you that. It's a really good
1 point
idea.
for Robin.
Um, yeah, so it's interesting. And I know that we talked a little bit ago too about like Lisa from Real Housewives of Miami, like her getting her perfume line going again in this like effort to try to have her own thing and her own independence, her own financial freedom. So that's such a good point about Housewives particularly.
Yeah. I do have to say too, I did love seeing like, sometimes we get to see their business shoots or kind of launches and
Yeah.
it I do love those episodes because it is really fun to see, how they pull it off, I guess.
Hmm.
And that episode of Potomac where she got the ladies together to do the photo shoot with her hats, that was such a fun
Yeah.
episode. And
Yeah.
like, what was it? The Wendy lean, like the Wendy walk.
Yeah.
Oh my
Yeah.
God, that was such a good episode. That is my Roman Empire. It plays in my head over and
Oh,
over again.
I love that.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, it is fun to see the ways that they market it on the show because like we follow them offline and sort of check into links and stuff like that. But I'm even thinking about Ariana, Matt, or and also Katie to give her credit, like something about hers merch through Scandival, like that wasn't necessarily on the show, but like
Hmm.
as a fan, you would go and like want to purchase those things and like,
Yeah.
oh man, that shirt that she made of like with
Fuck
the
me in
grilled
this
cheese part,
t-shirt.
yeah,
Yes.
that was a good one. I still want it.
Same. I know. I
Um,
love it. That was so good.
but yeah, it is funny to see like scenes that they're promoting them. And I know that in the most recent season of Salt Lake City, like a lot with Meredith Marks's brand and Whitney's brand, like a lot of shit happened at those events. And so we kind of end up correlating the brand with like this whole plated jewelry line for Meredith Marks of it being more affordable.
Yeah.
Like to me, I just think of scenes from that party, you know?
Hmm.
And so I don't know if that's a good thing or a bad thing. I can't make
I
up my mind.
know. It's hard. Even like Whitney's event. I don't even know what it was. It was just like sound baths and was
I
she
think it was
launching something?
her jewelry line. Yeah, I think it
Okay.
was.
Jewelry and sound baths. Okay, got it.
Yeah, like
Um,
that brand is confusing to me.
it speaks about her. It speaks to her for
Yeah.
sure. Just a lot of mixed messages. But anyways, that event where she was trying to launch her jewelry line and then there was all that drama with Angie and Lisa and Monica and just the talking and the shushing and that was absolute chaos and I did feel for Whitney in that moment but to me that's really tough as a business because you're thinking like this event sucks. Like, this is gonna
Yeah.
have a really bad impression on all the people that are here. And now this is being broadcast to everyone. Like,
Yeah.
to me, that was such a cringe moment because I was just thinking, if this was my business event,
Yeah.
like y'all would be gone. Like, this is not gonna be a good look.
Yeah. No, that's such a
No,
good point.
it's tough.
It is really tough. If you were to have a business, would you, and then you were asked to go on a reality TV show,
Ah.
would you A, go on the reality show, period? And then would you go and promote your business or would you just keep those things totally separate?
Um, I think for me, it would very much depend on what my business was
Yeah.
and how established it was.
Yeah.
If it was newer, I would definitely be keeping that to myself.
Yeah.
Because I personally would want to have more control over how that goes. Um, and even things like the editing, like you can't control how things are edited. And, if there's something that you feel was like a really important message about your business and that gets cut,
Mhm.
then you could give a completely different impression.
Yeah.
So I would feel like I have no control over my own branding.
Yeah.
But if it was already really well established,
Yeah.
then yeah, I would share little bits of it. That's just me. What about you?
I think I would. I think I would do a lot of work before going on the show to make sure that things are solid. And I think like I would probably need to hire a specific team for that. And I would just really
True.
do my due diligence with it. I wouldn't take the opportunity just to have my brand out there.
Yeah.
But I also think that I would need to make sure with myself and my therapist that like I'm going into a situation where if my I'm gonna be acting in a way that I feel proud of that's in line with my brand. So I wouldn't go on to a show where I feel like a lot of my like deepest, darkest shit's gonna come out, and then that's gonna be conflated with my work because those two things are very separate for me.
Right.
So I think like we're both cabs and we just think so similarly, and I think our work is just so important to us that like
Yeah.
it would mean a lot to have our brands be aligned with us, and that's an honor. But I also think like I would hate, like you're saying, to have it be too early on and it fail, and then
I know.
it's like in etched in stone in like the Bravo world that like I
Yeah.
had this failed business.
I
Like,
know.
yeah.
I know. My competence is something that is so precious to
Yeah.
me and
Yeah.
something that I will protect at all costs. So
Hilarious.
I would definitely err on the side of caution.
Yeah, that's super, super fair. One thing that I've sort of noticed while watching, I think more than anything, probably Beverly Hills, is at times it can feel like a big advertisement when
Mm,
a lot of these brand placements are, um, yeah, like a lot of the event parties, a lot of the conversation about women's lives are less about like what's going on for them personally and more just like, I'm really working hard in my business.
yeah.
Like, check it out, www.
Uh,
Yeah, so I feel like there is sort of a risk of like I understand the hustle and I understand the opportunities there when you are a part of a show, but I also think like it has to be so well balanced. And I think
yeah.
something about her, I think Erica Jane, I think like those people like that those that is part of their lives like that,
Yeah.
and they connect that well to like who they are as people, that
Yeah.
it doesn't feel like a big advertisement. But sometimes I think even like the Wendy Osefa with the candles thing, to me that was a sign of her growth in sort of an area that she wanted to dive into, and sort of like
Yeah.
it was an identity thing for her, I think. So
Yeah.
that was another interesting way of branding. I'm starting to feel like with her, Wendy and I feel like it's getting a little like brand centered for me.
Hmm.
And this like talk show thing that she's trying to pitch, like it's just been a lot about her branding lately for
Yeah.
me personally.
That's fair. I do feel like at that time it was, like you're saying, a lot about identity and like it was a really big leap for her. Like I know she was really nervous about telling her mom because she was giving up a really good career as like a professor, but it's
Yeah.
also like if this isn't what you want to do, if this isn't going to be fulfilling to you, then like, you know, make that leap and like try on another hat and see
Yeah.
how you like it. And I did appreciate like that part of her journey. Obviously like, the candle thing, like Karen came out with her candle too, and that was pretty silly as a viewer to watch that whole
Yeah.
drama. It was super petty, like the one wig versus the three
I
wig.
know.
Like,
Honestly, that was one of those moments where like you can't take it seriously. It's just so
yeah,
stupid.
yeah, totally,
Yeah.
totally. But I do agree. Like, I think that's a really good point around if it's already part of their kind of career, their lifestyle, versus like something they're kind of just doing on the side and they don't really have to. It
Hmm.
definitely can feel really different.
Yeah.
Um, yeah, I don't know. I was
Yeah.
gonna say something else and I don't remember.
I feel like I feel like also another example of that is Sonya's toaster oven. Like she really wanted to have that be her brand, like her
Oh my
identity.
God.
You know what I mean? Like her whole
Yes.
thing was like Sonya in the city, like come to my comedy show, buy my toaster oven. Like it
Yeah.
felt disconnected a little
Yeah.
because she is just like that, and I'm really sad that didn't end up coming to fruition because I think it was such a funny way of selling such a basic item.
Yeah.
And that is just her. Like I just would have 100% bought it. So I'm sad that that didn't happen.
I know. It's so weird, eh? That whole time was weird. And like,
Yeah.
I will say that was a time for me on the show where I was really annoyed with Sonia and wasn't a huge fan because she was just irritating me so much
Mhm.
about that whole thing with like the photo shoot and the free
Yeah.
labor and all of that stuff. But like,
Free labor.
yeah, she's just like, do everything for free for me, please.
Yeah.
Um, so it was kind of annoying, but I do think like Sonia on her own has become this real icon,
Mm.
and I know that it would have the toaster oven would have been successful.
Yeah.
But you know, we can also look at how things have changed in the business world in a lot of ways and how people make money, and things really did shift after COVID,
Yeah.
in terms of rethinking work, rethinking business, um, you know, the risk of having in-person retail, like we talked about,
Yeah.
because a lot of businesses went under through
Yeah.
COVID, through, you know, shortages or just people not shopping as much and staying home. And so some of the businesses that we're seeing now, I think really speak to how our ideas of making money and marketing has just changed so much, and like the age of influencers and social media marketing.
Yeah.
So I do think that that's, you know, trending upwards in a lot of ways.
Oh, 100%. Yeah, completely. I think like it's relatable and like I said, it sort of stretches the customer base when it's
Yeah.
online. So I think that's a huge opportunity for this demographic to connect with people. We don't have to just be in LA or in Jersey going to Melissa Gorga's little shop. Like we can like order things and connect in a better way. So absolutely. Um I'm also thinking about like brands and businesses, yes, but also these like professions that people have. Like, you know, we kind of talked about Wendy's profession of being a professor and like a political scientist and an activist and all
Yeah.
these things. And something that we're seeing a lot on Beverly Hills this season is Anna Marie with her. Is she an anesthesiologist? Is that
Sh I believe she is a nurse and
yes.
anesthetist.
Okay.
I I might be butchering that, but
She do be in the doctor
yeah.
world or healthcare
Yes.
world, I should say.
Healthcare, yes.
Healthcare, sorry. And you know, we've seen like Nicole in Miami sort of weigh in on that discussion, which I think is really interesting. And I loved Nicole's take on it.
Yeah.
Um, but I also think it does sort of beg the question of like, should there be some level of like accountability and proof of professionalism? Like, I don't know. That's such a weird area that we haven't seen too much because we have
I
so
know.
for a long time on Real Housewives specifically haven't had a lot of women who have full-fledged careers, right?
Yeah.
Because it was this like men are taking care and this is like the thing that we do. So it is kind of interesting to see that come up.
Yeah. That's so true. Even like lawyers, like we've seen
Yes. Yeah.
obviously Meredith, we
Mhm.
saw Ebony,
Yeah.
um
Phaedra on Miami, I mean Atlanta is also
Phaedra, um who else? Emily from
Emily.
Orange County, but
Yeah.
I don't think any of them while being filmed were actively
Yeah.
practicing law.
Yeah.
Like their licenses were still um current, but they were not actively practicing. So, you know, I'm curious if that would ever happen. Actually, so shout out to Housewives of Melbourne again.
Yeah.
Gina is also a lawyer, and I believe that she was actively practicing while being filmed.
That's
So
wild.
Gina's just paving the way.
Yeah, I wonder how that goes. Like, I wonder how it feels
No.
like for Nicole to clock into a shift out. Because I remember she couldn't make something, like, she couldn't make some event in a recent episode because she had a shift. And, like, that's
Yeah,
just so funny to me.
it's
Like,
so
I
real.
know. Yeah.
It's so true. Yeah, it's true. And I love seeing that increase in women being on the show who have these like really legitimate,
Yeah.
well-established careers.
Yeah, for sure.
But yeah, it is kind of like, oh damn, this really is your real life.
Yeah. This do be real.
This do be the
This
real
do be the
housewives.
real housewives. But I think there are like huge implications and I wonder like what sort of conversations are being had with their employers whenever they do start shows like this. And I even think about that with like Love Island. Like people take a
Yeah,
break from their jobs to come on the show, and like I wonder how that translates when they go back and like the
I
impact of that. Like you
know.
were a dick to Brittany on season
Yeah.
2, and you're like, oh my God, like,
It's
you know,
so true. Even like just with the law thing again, like referencing a lot of laws and like sharing legal information. Obviously, it's not legal advice.
yeah,
Very, very important distinction.
yeah,
But you're sharing general information or people are coming to you for questions.
yeah.
Like I can just imagine the paperwork that these women are signing. Um,
Yeah.
yeah.
So the paperwork that these women are just the amount of
They
it.
yeah, just stacks.
I do think that there is a responsibility though, and this is where I have an issue with Anna Marie is like there is a responsibility when you are talking about your job and weighing in on something based off of your experience to, like you said, be very clear that this is not legal advice, this is not medical advice. Like I'm
Yeah.
just sort of talking out of my ass at this point about something. Like
Yeah.
you have to make that really clear, and I don't think that she did her due diligence in clarifying that, and I think it got really messy and it was really hard to watch.
Yeah.
So I think Nicole's response to that and just saying like, you know, you need to come from a like a good place when having these conversations, an empowering place was such a
Yeah.
great way of responding to that.
I
Yeah.
know. I agree. I think it is really the first time, at least that I can remember seeing someone with a certain profession, certain level of knowledge and expertise, being just so careless and reckless with it.
Yeah.
Sorry to say, please don't sue me, Anna Marie, but I got pennies. Like, I don't know, just I feel like it was coming across as very irresponsible. And even if she did, explain her credentials and explain her limitations and things like that, and it was not shown in the final edit, even if
Mhm.
she did all of that behind the scenes, you're still not under that um like patient client
Yeah.
relationship in this
Yeah.
setting. And like Sutton said, why am I having a doctor's appointment right now? Like
Oh, yeah.
it was just so reckless and honestly really uncomfortable to watch. And it is very shocking to see how much she is just defending herself and doesn't see the issue with it.
Yeah.
I've never seen anything on this level in Bravo history.
Yeah. I
Ugh.
think like the closest thing that we can, it's not to the same level, but you know, when the whole Shannon and Gina thing on Orange County was coming to a head and there was lots of arguments over, you know, whether CPS was going to get involved and
Yeah.
shit. And then I think I remember Emily sort of chiming in being like, CPS wouldn't get involved in this kind of scenario. Like just to say that like this is
Yeah.
kind of a stupid argument because like that's not what's going to happen in this scenario.
Yeah.
So I think that that's like the closest we've gotten to like somebody weighing in based off their profession, but it was very much like that's
Yeah.
just like public information about the law.
Valid.
So
Yeah. Exactly.
yeah.
Totally valid. Yeah.
Yeah.
All of this makes me really glad that who is it? From New York, Alex McCord
Oh my God, yeah.
was not on the show while being a licensed I don't know if she's a psychotherapist. I
Mhm.
think she's a psychotherapist. But I'm like, thank God, because we can just imagine the freaking speeches and
Yeah.
the wrist slaps that would have come from that. Oh,
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, that would have been brutal. And I
sorry
think
to
that
bring
was
her
like
up.
so early on in Real Housewives' lives that like they wouldn't know how to govern that, I don't think, and it would
Yeah.
be not a whole lot of overseeing it.
Yeah, that's such a good point.
Yeah.
Ooh, we dodged a bullet.
Yeah, I wanted to sort of wrap it up by thinking about like let's just get in the Shark Tank universe.
Ooh,
We are rich right now, finally. And we have money to invest.
damn right.
Who are you gonna invest in? If you could, if they came to you out of everybody in Bravo, everybody in reality TV, and they
I
said, "Hey,
know.
who'd you invest
Oh
in?"
man, let me think.
I have a guess for you, but
Yeah, I want to hear your guess.
I kind of think you would invest in Meredith Marks only because I think like you would just like love to be with her.
Why would you even guess
And
that?
you love jewelry. You have such a great taste in jewelry, so I think it would just be such a great collab.
Aw, thanks. I would probably invest in Meredith Marks just because I do think she is a savvy businesswoman. I think she's really like responsible with her money. I feel like she really thinks about things before she does them. I would trust her judgment in
Mhm.
business. And yeah, I feel like it could be like a good alignment. I feel like she's been pretty successful and pretty steady.
Yeah.
Sorry, that's my dog. But I also would consider investing in Candace as well because I feel like her career is like
Ooh.
pretty well established. She obviously has the talent. She's done some pretty interesting collabs. And I would also trust her judgment to just be like, go fly, birdie.
I love that. I would not have guessed that. That's such a great thing to, yeah, because I really think like you're right. She's got the talent, she's got the charisma, she's got the uniqueness, she's got the nerve, she's got the talent. Uh, yeah, she really does have the full package, and I think like she's been saying in Potomac, like it's expensive to tour, it's expensive to put on an album. Like if you're self-funding that, it's a lot. So that's a great answer. I love that.
Yeah, that's exactly it. I just love to see her do her thing. So I'd be
Yeah,
happy to support her. Yeah.
nice. I love
What about
that.
you? What are you doing with your money?
Oh my God, I just have so much to burn. I don't know. I really would love to get something about her figured out. I think
Yeah.
like I don't know what's going on with the permits, and I don't know. I feel like I love sandwiches. I love their whole aesthetic. I love everything about it, that if I
Yeah.
could invest, I fucking would.
I
Um
believe that.
and I think like their merch and their art is so great that I would just like love to keep that going and like open up a little online shop and just keep the merch going.
Oh,
Um yeah, I also think like I love what Lisa Vanderpump has done with like making hotel rooms in Las Vegas, like off of her
yeah.
vibe. So I think it'd be really cool to sort of keep that idea going, maybe with other housewives. So that way if you're
Ooh,
like traveling somewhere, like for BravoCon, for example, you can like
yeah.
stay in like, I don't know, like the Lisa Renna room or something. That'd be so fun.
That's amazing. You're so naturally business minded. Oh
Well,
my goodness.
honestly, I feel like I love what Trixie Mattel did with Trixie Motel,
Yeah.
and I think like that idea is so brilliant, and but
Yeah.
it's so risky because it's so specific and
I
like it
know.
has to reach such a targeted audience, but I think the Bravo fan base is getting so much larger that you can really get specific and it would still do really well.
Yeah.
So I think even just something along those lines would just be really cool.
That's so true. And like, especially if it were featured in episodes
Mm.
and like just with the rise of social media, like we see what people are up to now, whereas before we didn't.
Yeah.
So it's getting a lot more attention from people.
Yeah.
So that could really take off.
Yeah, you could have like a bathroom that has like scenes of like, are people doing coke in your bathroom? Like, I don't know, just have like a little Bravo museum hotel thing. I think that'd be really
Uh,
fun.
I think that you should do that. I can't wait to see it.
Andy Cohen, are you listening?
Hello.
Hello. I have no money to invest, but you can buy my
Pennies.
idea if you want it
Pennies.
for a pretty penny.
Ugh.
Well, that's all that I have to contribute today. Definitely interesting. I'm curious to see how brands sort of continue to market themselves. And I think in the new season of Vanderpump Rules, it'll be interesting to see if there's a positive or negative impact on those restaurants.
I know.
Because I know that things were pretty rough last season. So we'll see how things go.
I know. I do feel like it's just such a um I don't know, it's just such a thing. It's just such a part of the show. Like I can't think of the word I'm looking for,
Yeah.
but it will always, people will always show up and go there even just to like gawk at it because
Yeah,
this is where
100%.
it happened. Yeah.
Yep. Yeah, 100%. It's a
And I
great
do
point.
think it'll be really interesting to see how things change with Bravo, just because it is so new to have so many brands on the show. And I don't know if when they're featured, like Bravo takes a percentage of their proceeds or anything that they might make.
Yeah.
So I feel like they're going to have to start considering that and maybe change some of those guidelines just because it is becoming so much more common. So,
Yeah, like the
um,
market is definitely getting oversaturated for
yeah.
sure. Yeah, that's a really great point.
Yeah. So I think, yeah, I'm really curious to see how they handle that. But
Mhm.
Yeah, I mean, we love all the branding that we're seeing and well,
Yeah.
most of it. And yeah, to be continued.
Yeah, if I had 100 grand, I would buy all of the merch and just have like a shrine in my house so don't get it twisted. Girl, if we live in Canada and guys, make your shipping better because it's
Oh my
really
God.
fucking hard to support you guys.
The fucking duties, man.
Yeah.
It's like just as much as whatever you're
Oh
buying.
my God. Like I wanted to get something about her shirt and it was just like the shipping alone was more than the cost of the actual shirt itself.
Yeah, I know.
What?
Guess we're just gonna like have to cross the border.
I guess.
Uh,
Okay,
all
well,
right.
thanks everybody for tuning in, and until next time, we'll see you later.
Bye
Bye
bye.
bye.